yeah, like it gets really lonely sometimes, but it's the comic book life.
That is the comic book life. Yes, it is true.
Yep, pretty
He's a
much.
lone soul, right?
All right, welcome everybody to the Comix Asylum Podcast. We're starting up a new season, and my name is Steve. To my left, I guess, is Vaughn, or is that my right?
Hey, how you
And
guys doing?
we have a special guest today, Lucas Filappi, straight from Brazil. So welcome, Lucas.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Excellent. So how's your 2023 been?
Oh, it's been good so far. Lots of drawing, and yeah, little hot in Brazil right now, but we're living through it.
Yeah, the seasons are changing up here, so we're starting to get a little bit cold, and in other parts of Canada, we're getting snow. So heat wave. I guess we got to wait 6 months for that. But for those of you who are new to the podcast or new to Comix Asylum, we have just started our first indie comic book called Atrium, and Lucas is the artist. So we're going to spend the next little bit talking about Atrium, getting to know Lucas a little bit better, and also introducing you to the project. So, Vaughn, up to you now.
So first of all, Lucas, just to get a little bit of background, how did you get into comics overall?
So I did design college here in Brazil, and I at first animation, I focused on animation because I wanted to work or either in games or in film at first. So in like 2014, I had the opportunity to go to the US uh, through a government exchange program. So I studied sequential arts at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design. And it was actually there that I like decided to pursue comics because I studied there with Tom Lyle. He was working at Marvel, I think, at the time. He created Scarlet Spider, and
Okay.
like a lot of his teachings like inspired me to pursue it. Like I used to read comics and I really like it, but I never thought of it as a profession till that moment. Yeah.
Very cool. So, how did you break into the industry?
I think I'm still breaking it, uh, trying to break it. But like I'm working with a publisher here in Brazil, and I already published a story with them last year. Have another story coming up next year. Um, but like I'm still in the grind, and hopefully with Atrium also we'll get more eyes on it and grow from there. Yeah,
Fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything. Yeah.
yeah.
Vaughn and I can't wait to show everyone what you're doing on Atrium. I guess we've got some snippets through the Kickstarter as well as some stuff on social media, but you are absolutely killing it. And issue 1 is fantastic, and issue 2 is even better.
It's all coming along really great. I mean, people are really blown away when they see it as a whole. So we're at that point right now that we've gotten the Kickstarter done. Now we're actually getting into the fulfillment stuff and showing people more of the actual stuff. People have been kind of like, oh, wow, okay, I can't wait for the next issues. People are really getting hyped up. So that's great. And looking forward to it as well, too. Much less when we actually hit the comic book scene and comic convention scene for 2024. That's going to be really interesting as well, too. Because I don't think there's anything like that right now on the scene out there. So it's good. It's great.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you did read comic books when you were younger. What were some of the ones that kind of caught your eye?
Mostly like Spider-Man and Batman. I don't even remember like the artists that worked on these comics that I read. Here is where I lived. Here in Brazil, it was a small town, and it was very hard actually to come across American comic books. So it- when I used to went on vacation, like to where my grandma lives, it's a slightly bigger town that I could find some comics, and I bought what I could find, you know. So yeah, but yeah, Spider-Man especially. Yeah.
Spider-Man especially. Okay, that's good. You got a fan in Steve then. So speaking of which, then, with the books down there, I know some places do they do full translations, or is it just partial English, or fully just they don't bother translating?
No, they translate everything, but the launch it's very delayed because of
Okay,
that.
yeah.
So like it's always like it comes out here 6 months after it came out in the US, for instance.
Well, I
Like
guess
there's a comic right now from Gabriel Grandpa with DC, like Batman,
Oh, the
Gargoyle
Batman one.
of
I have it right
Gotham.
here. I have it right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Brazilian distributor is trying to make it the launch at the same time with the
Mhm.
US, all translated in Portuguese for the first time.
First time.
you know what just hit me? Because like I guess it's just the way that technology is. Back in the day, you could have a 6 month lag and you wouldn't have to worry about spoilers.
Yeah.
But with YouTube and social media, if you have a 6 month lag, everything that's like a hidden story point or whatever is totally
Yeah,
ruined.
it's totally ruined for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the fight between when a movie comes out and not going on YouTube
Oh,
and get spoiled, right? So that's the new fight. Any new movie
right.
that comes out, right?
Yeah,
No, absolutely.
I suppose it would be easier for graphic novels, but on monthly floppies, it'd be almost impossible unless you're doing it for every region simultaneously, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like for me, like that I do know English and can read in English, I can never wait. I always go online and try to find it or buy one digitally. But like
Okay.
someone that can read in English, then have to wait.
Mhm.
Alexa, stop.
Speaking of
Sorry, boss.
technology.
Yeah.
So Batman and Spider-Man are your I guess your favorite comics. Who are your influences artistically?
So I think the main one that was reading like around 2014 that made me pursue comics was like Greg Capullo on Batman, like his run, the Court of Owls, Definite Family.
Yeah.
Like at that time I was really trying to emulate everything he was doing, and copying straight from the comics. But like my influences are always changing. Like the list is fluid. Like Stephen A's face. uh, but right now I'm actually like looking back like to the influences of my influences, like Alex Dove and Al Williamson and these guys like old school. Yeah.
Well, that makes total sense. Because I guess everything's layered, right? Depending on when you get into the game. If you like Jim Lee, then there's a bit of John Byrne or Neil Adams in there or Mark Silvestri, whoever, whatever era you come into the comic book landscape, what you're seeing is built on something else. And sometimes it's cultural, because I know, and Vaughn, you can correct me on this, in the 90s, that's when we started to get a lot of anime influence.
Yeah.
Like Joe Mad and stuff like that.
Joe Mad, yeah.
Right.
That was when anime and like Ninja Scroll and a lot of those imports were really hitting it big here and everything. And even like where I was, same thing with you, Steve, in Toronto, we were looking at stuff like that based on we had this one little video shop. What was it? It was Suspect Video,
Suspect Video,
where that was the only place that you could really get good anime before they started importing it all at conventions and all kinds of stuff.
yeah.
So that's when you used to get all that kind of stuff in, and you look at guys like Joe Mad that were blowing it up when he did his X-Men run, and it's just like, wow, right? But if you look at it too, there's other guys around the same time. They're all kind of subsets of each other, right? Because even before Joe, you would say Arthur Adams had a lot of that type of stuff in him too, right?
Definitely.
So it's like nothing's really, it's kind of more reinvention than anything, or in a new form. But the core idea and core styles have always been kind of built on, right? So
yeah,
definitely.
Outside of that, and outside of drawing Atrium, our book, what other stuff that are you really enjoying? I've been watching your Instagram. I know you're big into life drawing. Are you doing any other stuff in regards to like, what do you do to warm up? Like, what is your things for warming up right now?
Life drawing, I do a lot of that every chance I get. At home, like every day, every morning before I start working. I get pictures online to do like figure drawing. I start to do gesture drawing a lot. And for inking, like sometimes I do a piece of a character I like or something like that. Or like, for instance, right now, it's happening the Pan American Games, and I'm big on sports.
Yeah.
So I draw like an athlete that I like or something like that.
That's good.
And I like to experiment a lot. So one time I'll do a watercolor, or I'll do just an ink wash, or I'll mix it up and experiment.
Totally. I know people haven't seen it yet, but I'll reference just the fact that in some of the pages that you did for us, you were using kind of like the letter tone, but almost kind of wash in regards to how you ink over some of your stuff. That's reminiscent of that quite a bit, right? In regards to that. So I really like that stuff. I'm a big zip tone fan. I know what they call letter tone back in the day. Big fan of that stuff. Seeing it on comic book pages and stuff like that. Just gives a nice little gritty feel to everything as well too. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And it's a way to add texture, and any way to add texture, I think it's valid. Like if it's cross hatching or just a tone.
Tone.
It's fun to mix it up. Add to the drawing.
With taking that into consideration, what are your preferred art tools? Because you say that you sometimes work traditionally. When it comes to the digital side, what are your preferences? Is it more like Photoshop, Procreate, Clip Studio? What do you use?
It's mainly Procreate right now, but like there was I used a lot of Clip Studio as well, but for Atrium, exclusively using Procreate. Procreate, if you it translates better the feel of some inking techniques that I do on paper. Today is mainly Procreate.
Is it a case of the brushes, or is it just like the feel with the pen and such?
It's more because of the brushes and because of the iPad also. It works better with the iPad. Like Clip Studio, for instance, the file eventually becomes too big and it starts to slow down. And Procreate, I never had any problems. And the only thing that Procreate that I think it's missing a lot of tools in comparison to Clip Studio or Photoshop. Like it's hard to even make the panels.
The panel sizing.
And you can only do like one perspective grid at a time, so you can't set up multiple panels with perspective at the same time. You have to do one at a time.
So then you have to do like one at a time and then cut and paste them into each other kind of thing? Or is that how you would do it?
No, sometimes I'll just eyeball it, or sometimes I will do one background, the most important lines to define the perspective, and then I will set up another grid to other panel
Okay.
and do like the important stuff, and then do the other one.
Mm.
Just to
good.
keep the workflow going. That makes total sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what's the comic book scene like in Brazil?
And it's small, very small. We have here, like, there is one big company that exists like since forever, that has a very famous comic book that it's called Turma da Mônica. It's like very childish. It's directed to children, but it's like a huge success. And they are making movies now, and it's growing even more right now. They started doing like some manga type books also,
Okay.
and it's doing very well. But aside of that, like, it's all independent. Like, all the publishers are doing like Kickstarter type collective financial campaigns to finance the books.
Mm-hmm.
So for the other companies, it's very hard and limited. Like there isn't like a market. It's more like a scene, comic scene, like events and event circuits that people go and sell their books.
Mm-hmm. So you predominantly working from home right now, or are you working with like in a studio for when you're doing your stuff right now?
Yeah, I'm working from home.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything, like, I just set up I have my setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, it gets really lonely sometimes, but it's the comic book life.
That is the comic book life. That's it. That's true.
Yep, pretty
He's
much.
a lone soul, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve's the same way. I come into the office. I have a little office, so that just gets me out of the house a little bit. But I get it. I fully get it on that. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it works.
Like, I thought about going to, there's some ateliers close by,
Yeah.
and then you can rent the space and use it there.
You're like a co-working space type thing?
Yeah, but like just for artists.
Okay, that's cool.
They have easels and tables that you can work on. That I'm thinking about going, but eventually I just decide to stay home. Like,
It's another expense in this ever hardening times and expenses, right? So you don't have to pay for it right now. Why not, right? Would there be other artists at that studio, or is it mainly just kind of like comic book artists, or more like just like all around artists? Like, is it
all around artists.
Okay.
Like, I went like 2 or 3 times. There are some people doing work for illustration, or there are painters also, and, like all type of artists.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very cool, the environment, and I really enjoy it. It's just like a little bit more of work to go there and take your materials there and pay for it. So,
is it far?
No, not that far, but actually, it's not that far for São Paulo. That it's a big city.
Yeah.
Like, I have to take I think 2 stations of the subway, or take a bus. It's like 5 minutes.
Too bad, it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna switch to, the project we're all, intimately connected
here for.
and here for. And I'm gonna give a little backstory on how Lucas came onto the project. And we were looking for an artist and I think I was on Twitter one morning.
Yeah, it was Twitter.
It was on.
You're near
I guess.
Twitter.
I guess
Oh,
it's
X.
X now.
X now.
It's X.
X guy gonna get you.
Yeah. And and I can't remember who it was, but someone had put out a call for an artist.
Was that Gail or was that Jimmy?
It was neither. It was someone else.
Oh, okay.
Right. Someone had put out a call for artists, and then everyone was showing their portfolio. Right. And I guess before X, the changeover to X, that used to happen a lot more than what happens now. And so Lucas's pages showed up in the feed, and I was like, I like this. Like, I think it's gritty, and I like the way he uses blacks and suspense and all that kind of stuff. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were Ghost Rider and Hawkman sample pages. And I don't know if you remember this because you've been doing so much drawing, but that's what caught my eye. And then I contacted Greg, Peter, and Vaughn, who were my partners on Atrium before you joined the crew. And I said, what do you think? And everyone was like, yeah, it fits. Like, he hits. So then I contacted you, and then we had a little bit of a back and forth. And you're like, yeah, sounds you like the idea. So I guess my pitch was, to your liking. And the rest, as they say, is history. But it's kind of interesting because I think every writer kind of goes through this. And because I draw, you kind of get past this kind of hurdle, is that what I write, you don't always reflect. You actually make it better, or you'll tell the story differently. And what's really neat is that you're taking what Peter and I have written and kind of injecting it with, your own sense of storytelling and what makes you such a great artist. And, the result is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that reading the script and like trying to figure it out, how to lay it out, I think it's the most fun part for me, to imagine the scene and lay it out. But it's always cool after I have drawn it, like to talk about it and see a lot, to compare, like that you thought something differently, but it works or it doesn't work, and trying to figure that out is also really cool, a cool part of the process.
How did you feel when you got your pages back from Nikos in regards to the colors?
Like, that we before you go ahead, Vaughn, we have to mention our awesome colorists, and Nikos Koutsas and Mike Torres. It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly, amazing on their own, but together with Lucas's art, totally makes it.
Yeah. No, it's like I got so excited because you see everything coming together, the whole thing. Also the letters and ties everything together. Like I think it is on the Kickstarter page, but the page where it has the explosion, it's especially that page, it was like, wow, it's so cool.
Oh yeah, we were so giddy when we got everything together. Just seeing it completed was kind of a thrill. And there's going to be a lot more of that just when we actually get the books in our hands, like Nikos. They're at the printers right now. I'm waiting on Brenner to get back to us. So that's going to be wild when we actually get the books. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And I'm really looking forward to the next, the continuation of the story, because the action is ramping up and the tension is ramping up. And I'm very excited to see how it will turn out with the colors, issue 2 and 3, especially issue 3 that I'm drawing right now. Because there's a lot of very dark scenes.
Yeah. Well, I remember in our initial conversation, you said that you liked like suspense and with your use of blacks and stuff, and just the way that you frame everything. And so issue 3 does have a lot of action, but there's some moments where you kind of get to play with what you really enjoy doing. So I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. I can't wait to show it.
Yeah, it's great. It's actually, you were paid high praise. A friend of mine who's a director, when he saw the artwork, he was like, this is really cinematic. So whatever you're doing, you're hitting all the points, and I'm sure the audience will love it too.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah. So we're kind of coming to the end, but I just want to get kind of like what's your process in terms of, so you get our script and then putting it into like visualizing it, thumbing it, like what's a day in the life of Lucas working on Atrium? What's that like?
So I first, when I read the script, I firstly read it like several times and start to thinking about the scenes, and then I do thumbnails for all the pages, and then I send it to you, so just for you to look at it, and then I start to refining the pages, everything. I like to work every process from page 1 to the last one, and before moving on. So I do the layouts and refine everything like a kind of a loose pencil stage. And once that's all good, with you guys, go to the inks. And the inks, I kind of do it like the important things in the scene, for everything. Again, like for all pages, go back and then start to refine it, add blacks, add texture, and everything that's missing, some details that I did, for this stage, like in the clothes, or like, so yeah. And I discovered recently that Frank Miller has a similar process, so I thought that was a cool find. Like, he validates my process because I'm always nervous about my process.
Everybody's
So,
nervous about their process, I think.
Yeah.
So, don't worry about it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you listen to any music? Is there anything that you have playing in the background? When I work, not when I write, but when I'm drawing, I like to have movie soundtracks on. So whether it's like Batman or Star Wars or Star Trek or something like that, I'm totally down with having that as my inspiration. So do you have anything that goes with your process like that?
Yeah, me too. Like, I really enjoy listening to movies soundtracks, and I have like a list on Spotify, like all movies that I really enjoy, and I listen on repeat. Like, but it varies also. Like, there are days I'm just listening to rock or metal or uh, pop or electronic. Very eclectic in the music, my likings. So
Whatever gets you through the day. It's all good.
yeah, like it depends also on my mood in the day. So,
or sometimes the scene, right? Because sometimes you have a scene that might be, a little bit slower or tender, and you want that kind of a vibe, musically to give you inspiration for it.
Yeah, just recently I was doing a scene that was very tense, and then I was listening to the soundtrack for The Joker, of Joaquin Phoenix, and the soundtrack is like very unsettling and disturbing. Like, it's you uneasy, and you feel like uncomfortable, and that translates, I think, in a way to the work you're doing, because you're getting that mindset, right? So yeah,
definitely. Well, Lucas, I want to thank you for coming into the asylum and chopping it up with us today, letting everyone know about what you're doing on Atrium, and also getting to know you a little bit better. They're going to be seeing a lot more of you in the upcoming months as we, push our campaigns, especially the second one. And then when Vaughn gets those beautiful comic books in his hand and we get to get them to our backers. So it's been great chatting with you.
So yeah, thank you for having me. It was great having this talk, and I just love talking about comic books and inspiration, this kind of thing. So yeah, I can't wait to show the work with everyone and the book. I'm very excited for the book coming out in the hands of the readers. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah, thanks.